Hey, welcome, welcome. Hey, everyone out there. We have today a special guest to the Double Click.
Are we supposed to say this together?
Okay, let's do that. Like 1, 2, 3. Double Click.
I don't know if that's only the host or
No, everybody does it together.
Okay,
it's like a family moment.
Okay, thank you. I feel very well.
So I hope everyone is out there doing well during the COVID times, and today is almost end of January. We might say the date as well.
Yeah, because we never know when we're actually going to release this.
Exactly.
We always end up delaying.
Oh, okay. Got it.
We end up delaying ourselves.
So you dub it in later.
Yeah, we'll just change your face every single time. So right now it's Richard, and then I'm just going to add other people in there.
Okay,
we have Bill Gates on the show.
Thanks.
He's very fashionable.
Yes, and a little bit more Asian usually.
Just a little.
No, but hey, we wanted to spice this up a little bit, right? So we have been talking about ourselves, our family, our journey, but there are other friends and family and lots of great stories out there and journeys from other people as well. And today we have Richard Lin joining us. He's a good friend of us. We would like to talk about more in depth about his journey, his experiences, and what he can teach us.
Learn is more likely, but exchange of ideas.
Yeah, we're very honored to have you here because I think they're very relieved. Whoever is listening, thanks, Mom, again. I think my mom's very relieved to have other people here, so she doesn't have to hear me talk over and over again. So, before we start off, man, let's just get into it. Tell us a little bit more about Richard Lin.
Okay. Well, I feel like I just say I'm very privileged. I feel very privileged to be a part of this podcast, and hopefully my mom is listening to. Hey, Mom. I call her Mooters. That's her nickname. So hi, Mooters.
Hey, Mooters.
Yeah. Okay. So, anyways, sorry. You're
Tell me about Richard Lin, man.
Oh, okay.
Who's Richard Lin?
Okay. Well, so multifaceted, of course. But I guess in a nutshell, I'm American-born Chinese, born in the 60s, which you mean 16?
No,
I mean 1960s, but towards the latter part of the decade, thankfully. So,
okay.
My parents are Taiwanese, and actually my mother was born in Shanghai. Okay. So, but she was 6 months when suddenly she fled with the Kuomintang with her parents. Literally, my grandma, who I call Waipo, she carried my mom. Her elder brother, they're both one was an infant, one was a toddler, and then a third on the way in her tummy, and then literally climbed up a cargo ship rope ladder with gold wrapped around her waist. So because of that, a miraculous escape, I came about many years later in Utah. So I was born in Utah in 1968, and then spent most of my life in the States, and then. Grew up to go to UCLA for undergraduate and studied computer engineering over there, and then afterwards decided to come to Taiwan at a certain point. Actually, it was after I got laid off my first job. My first job, I was with a company called NCR, and they were bought out by this other company called AT&T. Which you may have heard of in the past, used to be quite well known. And then because of that disastrous merger, actually, a bunch of us were laid off, including myself. But basically, the only thing I did there was run the quality football league, the fantasy football league. Which was good. I was a great commissioner. They missed me dearly because of that. And then also, I ran the afternoon Sega John Madden football games.
All right.
So,
I love it.
Exactly.
What was your go-to team?
Well, back then I think it was like the Cowboys or Steelers you had to go with. It was that
that's right.
back then. Yeah, or the Niners, of course, which I hate though, of course. But anyhow, so after that, came to Taiwan, and then there met the love of my life, Cindy.
Yeah.
Hey, honey. And
hey, Cindy.
I hope she's listening to it.
That would triple our number of listenership. Yeah. So, and then the two of us. She went to USC. I went to UCLA. So I had a little bit of rivalry. And actually, when she met me, she wanted to actually play with play. She wanted to be a bad girl. Finally, because and she saw me and she thought I was a bad guy or a bad boy. And Chinese have a saying called 男人不坏，女人不爱, which just basically it's actually a rhyme, which basically says if you're women like love bad boys, And so she had always been a good girl
Yeah.
in high school in Taiwan at USC and everything. And suddenly she came back to Taiwan. She wanted to cut loose, and so she found this bad boy to like be bad with.
But he's not.
Exactly. And little did she know, we fell in love instead.
Yeah.
And 27 years later, we're
27.
still happily
Wow.
married.
Wow.
Still happily married. Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you. So she's still happily married to this bad boy. But it was interesting because I fulfilled, aside from being a bad boy, which is what she really wanted, what she didn't get, there were 10 no-nos that she had. No UCLA, no Bruin, because of the rivalry.
Oh, wow.
No engineer because they're boring as hell. Like the
Yeah,
three
yeah,
of us are we're all Asian. We got engineers. I'm sorry. And then no mama's boy because I'm very close to this mom,
Yeah.
Haimooters. No common name for Chinese. Lin is a very common name, especially in Taiwan. It's the second highest. 8% of all Taiwanese are surnamed Lin. No big family. She didn't want to be a part of a big family, especially if
She got everything.
Yeah, she got everything.
Sorry, Cindy.
Yeah. I'm the oldest cousin out of 25, so she has to be the elder sister, supposedly to 25 young ones. And of course, as you know, in Asian families, we always have to take care of the young ones, emotionally, physically, financially, whatever. So she has to do that. And then also a bunch of other notes, no supposedly good-looking guy, no charming, good-looking guy, because otherwise, their hearts wander and they're hard to keep.
Man, she's not doing good in this checklist. She's like failing.
All 10.
Asian, we're good at doing checklists.
Yeah. So I fulfilled all 10 no's.
Oh.
Fulfilled all 10 no's, but somehow it's like a negative and a negative.
Right.
Somehow 10 negatives equal to positive.
Yeah.
So we ended up married.
So you came back here to Asia.
Yeah, then we went back to the States, went to B school, and
yeah.
then we went to B school together, and we were in the same cohort. We ended up taking 16 out of 20 classes together. We were known as the Lins. I became the president of the Graduate Business Council. She became Evita. Everyone called her Evita. She was, the power behind the, pulling the strings. I was just the puppet. And then, and afterwards, we lived in Southern California for 6 years in Newport Coast area in Irvine.
Beautiful area.
Yeah, it is beautiful and surrounded by Asians. Basically, it's just more of a urban Pleasantville version of Shanghai. Same number of Asian people, but just a greener area. And then of course, 17 years ago, my company was having trouble. The Shanghai office, they had launched in '98, and basically in '97, and then suddenly the global financial crisis. At that time, it was the Thai baht devaluation, the Russian devaluation crisis, and everything. And then
Which company is that for our listeners?
That was Spencer Stewart. Spencer Stewart launched in '97, '98. It collapsed because of that, and then they relaunched in 2001, and then of course, great timing, 2003 SARS hits, and so then the office collapsed again. And so at the time, I was a senior associate in Southern California. It's kind of quietly doing my business. In fact, I had already considered going into a career of entertainment. I was doing musical theater.
Yeah, you sing. We're going to talk about that later.
Sure, okay. Starring some shows and
are we singing today?
Yeah, we will. Sing. Yeah,
well, that's
Richard will sing later.
We got the dance routine down.
Warm up. Anyways, give me advance notes next time, please. But so after I was going to transition over, they made me halftime, which is actually pretty good because I used to make X amount of money, pretty decent money. But then after I went halftime, I actually did the same amount of work basically in half the time. Because now I just worked faster and harder. Now I instead of taking half hour bathroom breaks or coffee breaks, I would just work, and then go do my entertainment stuff. So I actually kind of made the same amount of money.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, as a part timer. But then they said, look, we got this office in Shanghai. They didn't tell me about the 2 times that it failed already. That it collapsed, and so they said, "Hey, you want to go?" And I told Cindy, and Cindy started just jumping up and down, and I didn't have much choice after that. So we came out to Shanghai, and I was probably the least qualified. I think I was the youngest. They promoted me actually to become a consultant, and I was the youngest consultant globally in the Spencer Stewart firm, and I think they figured like, let's just throw this young guy off the deep end. If he sinks, no one will notice, and if he swims, then we got an office, and it was right.
So
time,
this
right
was
place.
around 2003.
This was 2000. This is 2004. So then, if you guys know, at that time, SARS ended at the kind of end of 2003, started 2004, and then the whole market just came roaring back.
Right.
And so I was drinking out of a fire hose. There's all sorts of. Every week there were meetings or clients' requests for this and that, and I'd go to one meeting, with AstraZeneca, and I'd be like, the life science expert, the pharmaceutical expert. Then next I'd go to Microsoft, and I'd be the tech expert. Then next, day I'd be going to like, Ford Motor, and I'd be like the industrial expert. Then next day to P&G, and I'm the consumer.
Yeah.
So I had to be like the industry specialist all the time.
Was that fun?
It was a lot of fun.
There's a lot of pressure and
it was a lot of pressure. It was a lot of fun,
Yeah.
and to be honest, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And to be candid, 16, 17 years later, and this is part of the reason I retired, I actually became less and less competitive as time went by, even though I was becoming more and more experienced and networked in, because back then, all you needed to do was to be able to know the search industry, be able to speak some Mandarin, and be able to speak English. All the meetings were held in English.
Yeah. Right.
It was very Western type orientation, and
Is that because the organizations were built like mostly with English based, and you're looking at English talent, English run organizations?
Well, firstly, because back then in 2004, most of the clients were MNCs, Western MNCs, so like Nike or like we won't say Adidas, or Starbucks,
Right.
So these big companies were ramping up their businesses then, so they needed the top local talent, and so you needed someone like myself who could bridge the kind of the two cultures, who was bilingual, who looked Chinese but at the same time spoke like a Westerner, and the local HR really kind of looked up to people like us at that stage.
Totally.
But then things have changed. And then, fast forward to, last year when I retired, I'd be going to meetings, and instead of, everyone introducing themselves in English and chit-chatting, kind of in America, right? Everyone needs to chit-chat a little bit and make everyone comfortable, break the ice. It's completely local style nowadays. You go in the meeting, there's like 12 people. People are coming and going in and out. People are looking at their phones. No one introduces them. You have no idea who you're talking to. And they're all like in their 30s. Right here I'm this 50-year-old guy who's supposed to be the doyen of this industry, a senior guy in this industry. And suddenly I'm talking to 30-year-olds who are HR, procurement. And I'm like, do you know who I am?
They're like, so just reach at me later.
So, can you give us 20% off this price? So they're treating you as like a commodity.
Right.
And so at a certain point, I was like, the time has passed. I need to move on.
So when you came back, did you miss the U.S.? Because you had a great time, obviously, what you had said, like after 2004, like really running the show, being in the spotlight and having fun and stuff. But were you at some point missing the U.S.?
Truth be told, I mean, I never. We when we came here, we thought we'd come out here for 2-3 years. We thought it'd be like 2-3 year assignment. We'd have a lot of fun, learn a few stuff, and then go back. In fact, we've been very fortunate. We got into real estate early in the U.S. and we saw some nice appreciation. But we saw a lot of people, like Cindy was at P&G. She had colleagues that would go to Cincinnati, back to the mothership, for just 2-3 years, and then they sold off maybe 3 houses when they left LA, and they go to Cincinnati. When they come back, they can't even buy one of them back. And so we were thinking, okay, we better buy some houses here because we're going to come back in a few years, and we want to make sure we can. But little did we know, the market there crashed, and the market here, thankfully, we bought property here, and it went up. So in some sense, we never really looked back. The market here was so hot, things were happening so fast. Cindy's at P&G, and then later on at PepsiCo. And as you know here, you two, are young guns. You guys know this. Here in China, 35, 40-year-old GMs are not unusual, right? In the U.S., you're still like, a senior manager, right? But if you're a director, you're a hot shot, right? So here, it's like you got this open field, and so we just kind of caught the wave at the right time. We were very fortunate.
Do you know why that is here in Asia right now? like having opportunity as a younger or younger?
Yeah, well, I think I'm not sure if it's still going on. I think the wave has kind of crested a bit, but certainly in 2004 when I first got here, I mean, there was just back then we talked about you kind of stratified the talent pool into four, and at the very tip of the pyramid, it was actually kind of a Eiffel Tower rather than like a pyramid in Gaza or something. You had people at the very top were like a lot of the Caucasian experts, Western expats, right? And then you branched out a little bit, and you had returnees, who could speak English and all that stuff. It was Western expats and Asian expats, right? So you had people from Taiwan, Singapore, or Malaysia, or Hong Kong who spoke English, who were kind of Western, and it could again bridge the gap. And then it branched out, and then you had the returnees, or they known as Haigui, the sea turtles, and then you had the local Chinese. And local Chinese at that time when I came over were at the kind of senior manager director levels, and returnees were kind of at the VP, junior VP levels, and then the Asian expats were VPs, SVPs, and then you had the MDs who were mostly Western expats, but also a sprinkling of Asians as well. But then this whole huge wave of Chinese, at the base of the Eiffel Tower started coming up, and now it's all, as you guys know, it's the minority that are Western expats.
That's right. We've seen that decrease quite a lot. I also feel unlike other Asian countries, China doesn't experience as much as a brain drain. Right? Like a lot of people who go abroad to get educated, they come back. Right. They want to come back, right? A lot of opportunities out here as well.
Right, yes.
That's kind of experience you're probably seeing as well.
For sure.
Right? So
for sure.
It's really well educated.
Yes.
Have the experience, can come back in.
Well, in fact, you bring up a good point, Gotham, is that there was a period, I don't know if, again, I've left that world for about a year, and it feels like 10 years, but there was a time when a lot of Chinese didn't even want to go out for a regional role, a head of Asia Pac role, or to go to back to the headquarters for even a global role, because they felt like by the time they come back, they're out of the loop. Right? China is moving so fast, and the networking is so critical that if you're gone for, let's say, 2, 3, 4 years, you come back,
you can't catch up anymore.
You can't catch up anymore. Right? So there was a little bit of that sense at a certain point as well.
Well, you thought this podcast was going to be talking about COVID and talking through the situation, but this is here just for us to give you your resume.
It's blank.
We start from scratch. We're a blank slate. We can be molded in any way you want.
We're very agile, adaptable.
Very much so. I can see. I can see how I can adapt you for many different industries.
But no. Seriously, hey, the reason why we actually have you here, I mean, obviously you have a huge experience, which we would love to talk to you on another podcast maybe. But today is more about, when we look at you and we know you, you're all about family. You're all about community. You're all about caring, and especially when we talked about this during COVID time. That's where we felt like, hey, this is something, a special gift that we have to have as well, and some sense of like strength that we have to support each other. And we have been talking about that in our previous podcast. But I think when we look at you, you're really living that day to day, not just during COVID, but beyond COVID. And I think before but please talk about all of the great things that you're doing as well, and maybe we can inspire as well other people on how to really take care of each other and support each other in good days to celebrate, but maybe on bad days to really support each other and learn from. So today is more about really
everything. Yeah. Basically, today we have 1 hour to know everything.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see if I can
one thing we both were talking about is, man, like, one thing that we've noticed just having conversations with you is conviction, right? When you do something, it's like, hey, I want to try something. I'm going to try it, right? You talked about, and we'll go into a little bit further, your 5-forward path.
And the 5-fold path.
Yeah. 5-fold path. Yeah. The 5-fold path, which I definitely want to learn more about. Yeah. And then we're like, well, you seem very grounded, right? Like you seem like you're a grounded individual that feels like, you have a path. And so we're like, hey, sensei, teach us.
I love Cobra Kai, but we're all senseis to each other. Hopefully, we can all learn from each other.
Well, the thing is for us is what makes you tick. What makes you grounded? as an individual?
Okay.
What made you create that fivefold path?
Okay, well, I appreciate the question. Well, I mean, I think I think the grounding for anyone, not for everyone, but I think for most people, for sure, is of course family, right? If you have a strong family foundation, whether it's relationship with your parents, relationship with your siblings, cousins, especially Asians, when we extend the family out, talk about fivefold path, and we extend it out very far. But also, especially our children, right? So when everything is solid, strong, firm on the home front, that allows me to be grounded and to do so much more beyond the family. So firstly, I gotta thank my family, having a very loving, supportive wife, 3 kids that are relatively well mannered and relatively orderly, and they're spirited, which is
beautiful
what I want.
children. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. But I think one thing that's really helped us was that when Cindy, she was a career executive with the likes of P&G, with PepsiCo. She later on Disney and then Shangri-La. I mean, it's kind of a who's who, except for Nike, right? She had kind of everything. She would have had all the important passport, the stamps in her passport. But one thing that I really appreciate she did was that kind of mid-career, just as her career was really exhilarating at PepsiCo, and she had been GM of Taiwan for 4 years, had really broke through with that business, and she had been a GM of a couple emerging businesses here in Shanghai. But then suddenly, out of nowhere, she decided, look, I'm gonna leave this very safe, exciting, vibrant track that anyone else would kill or die for. I mean, you guys are living the dream as well. But then she said, look, I'm gonna go lead an NGO. And she went to lead a NGO called Chonghui Children Foundation, and really helped to expand its footprint, not operationally, but more in terms of in the minds of Chinese who because before it was part of what is known as Half the Sky, and so Half the Sky just very quickly provides love, care, and nurture programs to Chinese orphanages throughout China, and they work in conjunction and partnership with the Chinese government. But most of 80-90% of the funds to support these programs were coming from overseas. And so a lot of Westerners were hearing the story. She, the founder, she herself had adopted a child and realized that, orphans, what they miss most is the physical touch. So you need adults who can physically interact with them, who can hug them, who can hold them, and that spirit. I mean, if you don't have that physical touch, you don't have ability to socialize, connect with others. You're physically much smaller. Instead of you have a 10-year-old who looks like a 6-year-old, 7-year-old, and also your brain doesn't develop, and it's half the size of a normal brain. So, she went. Her mandate was to really help Chinese people become aware of the situation and to shift the fundraising from overseas to primarily within China. And that was it was a Herculean task because Chinese people, having just come out, just coming into money, it's not easy to suddenly say, okay, I've come into money, I finally can take care of my family and I look forward to our future and everything. And now suddenly I have to give to people that are complete strangers. But Chinese, the philosophy in general is, we really take care of our own, and it could be, our own family, could be our extended family, it could be just a friend and you really go out of your way, as to take care of them. But a stranger, not necessarily. So they had to really need to get that out there. And I think that's what really changed our whole family dynamic and direction, was suddenly we were finally making an impact beyond ourselves. And then even after she left Chonghui, we kept in touch with a lot of the kids. A lot of the kids, graduated or aged out, whatever you like to term it. And a lot of them, of course, then needed to work.
Because I know that you're still in touch with them right now, still today, right?
Yes.
And you're inviting them for special days at home, cooking together and dining, and which is amazing.
Yeah, thank you. So well, actually, a lot of it was Cindy's ideas. First, started off just an annual thing. So a lot of these kids, we helped them to introduce them to the WeWork or to Disney, and then they would get jobs and they would come to Shanghai. But like we talked about, when you go to a big city, even people like us, it's intimidating, right?
Yeah, totally.
You don't know anyone, no one cares about you, and you're completely on your own. Now, as an orphan, you're more so on your own, right? You can't call back home to mom or dad and say, or your big sister and cry a bit or ask for advice and stuff. So when they came here, Cindy, started to have a lot of these. Primarily, it was annually at first. Was Thanksgiving, so they would come and we share with them what Thanksgiving's all about, and then we started to increase it. Having smaller groups come over at different times, but then also having big groups come over like once every 2-3 months. And so we see these kids probably on a monthly basis on a rotating schedule, and then also big groups. And they come over, and a lot of times, I like to play games, so we play,
I know those games,
card games. Yeah, you play.
It starts with like 10 minutes, like half an hour, and then it ends up like 6 hours. Like
you still play marathon games all nighter, right? They love that. But to be honest, sometimes we don't even get to the games because they just want to share and talk and consult. And Cindy is so good at just sharing her, and I try to contribute as well, but sometimes they don't know how to write a resume, or they don't know how to do an interview, right? They don't know how to deal with a jerk boss, or how to deal with political
bad colleague or
backstabbing colleagues or roommates that are unreasonable. And that's where they need to have someone to chat with and consult with, and so we provide that. But also the kids provide that for each other, and so it's become quite a strong family. So we're basically their Shanghai family and home away from home.
That's fantastic.
Shall we shift gears a little bit, because Richard made like very important decisions during the COVID time, and what made you trigger like what, writing a book, making the decision to retire, right, and taking care of the children while Cindy was working out. Like there are a lot of these things that have happened during last year, 2020. You need to tell us more about that. Like what made you those really tough decisions that are impacting your life in some shape or form?
Yeah. Thanks.
So why don't we start with just, where were you when you heard about COVID?
Good one.
That's just like a good question. Yeah. Well, COVID is not like the space shuttle blew up or JFK getting, it's not like just a single moment. But my first impression of something was kind of happening was when we were still in Shanghai and we heard about Wuhan and it's starting to get cordoned off, and at that time we were still going to Hong Kong. And we were just worried about being, not being allowed into Hong Kong because we were running a fever or something. And then we went to Hong Kong, and then Cindy stayed in Hong Kong to continue working for Shangri-La. We went to Taiwan for Chinese New Year's, then she went back to Hong Kong to work for Shangri-La, and then we decided to stay on in Taiwan because the border was basically kind of closing, and Shanghai was kind of locking down. Taiwan never went into lockdown. Taiwan had, they did an amazing job there in terms of the schools were down for 2-3 weeks beyond Chinese New Year's, but then it got up and running, and then they never looked back. And even now they only have maybe 500-600 cases total, like 10 deaths maybe. I haven't seen the latest numbers, but that's like a McDonald's for one day in the U.S. Right?
just in the drive-through line, right?
It's unfortunate. I mean, it's funny, but it's unfortunate. I mean, China, Taiwan and China have done such an excellent job.
Hello, Wisconsin.
Yeah, exactly. You were there, so you experienced it firsthand. But at the time, there was this. There was a fear that you could almost taste in the air because Taiwanese and Chinese have gone through SARS. And so when I was in Taiwan, everyone masked up, and business probably in the restaurants and the stores probably went down maybe 20-30%, but people were still out and about, and you still were going to work, and everyone was just kind of on high alert. Because you just, I think it's part of the culture, and everyone's wearing masks. But at one point I was even thinking maybe I should take the kids and make a run for the U.S. And then hole up there until it's all over in China, and then come back.
That's a clutch decision right there. You made a clutch decision not doing that.
Sometimes the best action is no action, right? So then I say not.
That's the takeaway from this whole thing. Sometimes the best thing to do is don't do anything.
Don't do it.
Yeah. Don't do it. But on the reverse side, my mom was going to come over in March.
Oh, okay.
And to Taiwan to spend time with all of us, and then she decided not to because in January, February things were just raging here. And she thought, I don't want to go, fly into the storm. And unfortunately, 2-3 months later, the complete reverse happened, and even worse, more extreme.
Yeah. Is she okay? Everybody okay?
She is okay. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. They just don't go out. She can't go to her favorite places, Costco, and to the community center.
I love Costco.
Yeah, Costco. Everyone does. That's a
podcast. Because the hot dogs were awesome.
Yes, for sure.
So Cindy was in Hong Kong.
Right.
You're in Taiwan.
With the kids.
With the kids.
Yeah.
And how old were the kids?
Okay, so I have a 13-year-old daughter named Araya, delightful, but a teenage girl, and then an 11-year-old son, Justice, who is kind of the rock, the stable one, and then I had a toddler who at the time was just over a year, Angelise. So it was kind of like I had a teenager who acted like a baby at times, and I had a baby who acted like a teenager at times. I think I had the middle child who was kind of rough. But actually, truth be told, I mean, they were very helpful. I mean, Cindy was like single girl in Hong Kong, so she was going out having a great time in Hong Kong with all her friends and doing all sorts of stuff. And meanwhile, I had the three of them. But truth be told, I had a lot of help. First of all, the kids were very helpful. The two older ones, sometimes very willingly, enthusiastically, other times a bit grudgingly, helped with tossing out the garbage, doing some of the dishes, doing laundry, babysitting. They would
That's great.
Ryan would sleep with the baby once a week so I could get some sleep. And and then I also had relatives as well, and that's we kind of chatted about that before the podcast, how as Asians we're very lucky in that we still have at least for me, a very close-knit extended family. So I have a huge extended family on my mother's side, the Tangs in LA, and then I have a very strong-knit family, the Lins in Taiwan.
There's two more people on the podcast.
Yes. We're growing exponentially.
Exactly. No. If you got all the Lins and Tangs, then you got a huge audience. Yeah, you guys are global.
Should we do ads on our?
Here we go.
For sure.
What do they like to eat?
Yeah, exactly.
Costco.
No, it's huge. Oh, actually, I just found out one of my nephews, Harrison. A call out to Harrison. If you're listening, he's got my daughter just told me he's got 11,200 followers on Instagram.
Wow.
Yeah. I was like, are you sure it's not 112? Because I've only got 21. So,
Instagram. Wow.
Yeah,
You're 22 now.
Oh, he got it. So anyhow, so the Lin family, there's my second uncle's family. We've always been very close with them. We helped them out a bit. They had suffered a bit of a financial loss earlier, and so we've always been there for them. And so because of that, not only because of that, but overall we're very close. And so they really helped out with the kids.
Mm-hmm. Were you working at the same time?
I was working. So whenever I went into the office, my second aunt would come over to help out, and other cousins would come over from time to time just to make sure we're okay.
And they were doing distance learning, right? Distance learning?
They were doing, no, in Taiwan they were going to school.
Oh, they were like,
I got them into a local school.
So you switched schools. Okay.
Yeah,
because they were going to Shanghai to school, right?
Yeah,
before.
Taiwan was good. If you had Cindy's Taiwan's ROC citizen, so as long as she could, even though she was Hong Kong, as long as she could provide proof that she's ROC, then the government there provided schooling for our kids. So they went to local school, which they, at least our daughter hated because it was all Chinese, 24-hour Chinese, and it was quite challenging. Yeah.
And your team, when you were going to work, you had a team in Taiwan, and you also have a team here in Shanghai?
My team primarily, most of them are in Taiwan, but some of them, we travel back and forth to Shanghai a lot.
Okay.
So most of the team was then kind of limited to Taiwan at that time because we weren't traveling as much during COVID, obviously.
Well, that's good. So at least you could relate to the team.
Yes.
And chat there. And what happened to the market for you at that point in time?
Well, Taiwan slowed down, China slowed down. I mean, everywhere slowed down.
Right.
But to be candid, China roared back. I kind of glad to help. Not that I can help anymore, but at least my colleagues can, former colleagues. But well, actually, I'm still a senior advisor there. So very senior. I mean, I don't know what I'm advising them on, but somehow I'm still very senior.
I like that.
So yeah, it was actually business slowed down quite a bit, but we had built up quite a large team, especially for such a small market that Taiwan represents. But quite a large team, and it was a very dynamic team, one that did a lot of work across. We call it the cross straits practice. So we did work in China and Taiwan and elsewhere across the region. We built it in a regional capability center. But it was sad because when I left Korn Ferry after nearly 12 years there, the last thing I did was to lay off. We went through a global restructuring, and unfortunately, we had to lay off quite a few people. So it was. I did that the last 2-3 weeks. So basically, I retired at the same time as letting go. A lot of my team. So it was a tough time.
So during that time in Taiwan, while you were working and have Cindy enjoy, being single, tell us.
You should see the pictures.
Tell us a little bit more about how you felt actually in terms of all the responsibility, the challenges. Was there hope for the future in general? Any mental shifts you had?
Actually, I've always been I'm blessed in this way. I'm very upbeat and energetic in general, so I'm optimistic. Hopefully you can feel a little bit, get a sense of it. But so throughout COVID, even though it was rough, but we had a great time together. My daughter might disagree, but she hated Taiwanese school or the schools in Taiwan. But we would play ball and frisbee, football, ultimate sports, all sorts of sports on the weekends. Because I have a lot of really good brothers. Friends, really good brothers in Taiwan. So we'd get together in the evenings sometimes. We'd often have cousins or friends over. We'd play, card games, board games. Yeah. So in some ways, it was kind of like summer vacation.
Okay.
We're there for two months, and we had no idea when we go back to China. So we just had fun in many ways. So it wasn't like we were hunkered down. Yeah. And again, Taiwan life was relatively like normal. So. It felt like a little bit like vacation. Of course, I miss Cindy. It's hard to parent on your own, but I had so many people around me all the time that I never felt alone. And again, I enjoy parenting. When we had Angelise, we used a surrogate, and then when he came, when he was born, I had to rush. He was born, I think 3-4 weeks premature. I had to rush to the U.S. Yes. And I didn't sleep on the plane. And I got there. I drove immediately to the hospital. And for the first 5 nights, I slept 13 hours. And I took care of him for the first month on my own in LA. And I have a lot of cousins and uncles and aunts there who helped out. But I moved us to the beaches because I wanted to go to the beach every day with my son. And then later on, so basically for the first 2-3 months, I was his sole character, or his main character. Later on, the family joined us for Christmas. So I love kids. I think that makes a huge difference. If you're not into kids, and not all fathers are, husbands are, they can't handle it on their own, then it would have been really rough. Yeah. But for me, actually, I enjoyed it. Yeah.
So I mean, that's a big philosophy, right? Yeah. So 99% of my time, I don't like my children. I think that 1%, no, they don't look at pocket, but that 1% totally covers. It totally covers that 1%. They're like, it's totally worth it. But the 99%, I'm like, oh my God.
No. Why?
I want to send you off to Taiwan.
Send Uncle Richard. I can take care of it.
So we do you remember, like, we had similar thing, right? So we went back to Turkey.
Right.
We had, again, we were blessed. We had family in some shape or form, really bonded back into that life.
Yeah, you do.
It was really nice. I mean, not easy, but like really nice. But on the same time, that when the time came for us to come back here, we really thought about not coming back.
Wow.
Because why do you want to go back again to readapting to the school life for the children, etc.
Right.
Have you had ever that thought as well? It's like staying more in Taiwan, or as a base more?
Yeah. No, certainly. I mean,
similar to you, right?
With COVID being so unprecedented, right? You didn't know what to think, and you had to keep your mind open to everything. So at one point, I was thinking, okay, and some families did that. They had their nannies, just pick up all their stuff, right? Pack all their stuff, right? The whole apartment, and then ship it off to wherever they were. Yeah. At the time, it was interesting because Cindy was actually due to be moving ASAP as soon as the kids graduated, or not graduated, but as soon as the school year ended and summertime hit. We were supposed to move to Hong Kong, as you may know, that she was transitioning to Shangri-La headquarters, which is based in Hong Kong. So our thought was, do we even want to go back to Shanghai just to have to pick up and go back to Hong Kong? But we have so much stuff here. I was thinking, we can't put our eye here.
It will take 2 years.
Just on the living room.
It's just real inhumane, It's like, we can't. And also, I wanted to come back to Shanghai. Shanghai has been our home for 16, 17 years. We have emotional attachment to it. We didn't want to just say goodbye to it, and then next time we come back, we're visitors.
Yeah.
Right?
Tourists.
What makes Shanghai so special?
Well, truth be told, I never felt Shanghai was that special for a while. Two things really changed my perception. I mean, we lived in Xingtiandi for a long time. Xingtiandi is awesome. It's a lot of fun, energetic, and before we had the kids, we loved being there. And then after we had the kids, we were in Taiwan for a while. And then we came back and we moved out to. But two things really broke through for me. One is Fraser's Suites. Just having the restaurant here and the restaurant.
We can put the
it's a game changer.
I can put the music you hear on the TV.
Exactly. Michael, this is for you. Photo. GM Michael. But seriously, Fraser Suites, because it has the restaurants, because it's truly a great staff, a great team that's really supportive, loving, caring. Suddenly you get to meet all these neighbors, right? And suddenly you have a community sense here. Not many places else. In Xintiandi, we lived in Casa Lakeville, which is the most nice place over there. But you don't have that sense of community. You meet people in the lobby or in the elevator. You're not going to say much.
It's transactional.
It's transactional. But if even most people don't even say anything. You say hi to them and they
walk by.
Yeah, exactly. Here, because there's that, people here say, "Oh, there's so many nice neighbors," and there truly are. Yeah. But really, there's probably nice neighbors everywhere. It's just you never get a chance to really get to know them. Here, you get a chance to know them. But the second game changer for me was the bike path. Once they put up the bike path. Yes. And it's just so nice to be able to go out there, walk, and ride your bikes.
No, that's a great bike path.
Yeah, it's amazing. I've been, you guys have been all around the world. Have you seen one like that?
I've been bugging him to come bike riding with me.
Yeah.
All right, so Richard,
soon.
March, April, with mass on. So anyway, is
that really the song for Costco?
No, you made it up.
It's fantastic.
Horrible voice, by the way. Okay.
Horrible voice. That was a best.
This guy's great.
Next path. So, man, one of the big things that stand out is you retired, right? You actually retired during the COVID time.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of us actually thought about retiring during COVID. This is it. I'm done with this. But you actually did it. So why did you decide to retire at this point in time? And then from there, what are you doing now?
Okay. That's a great question. I appreciate that. Actually, I've been planning my retirement since I started working.
Smart man,
I started working when I was 15, illegally actually in the States as a busboy. And
what's a busboy?
Busboy is like a waiter's assistant.
Cleans the dishes, wipes the table down.
Yeah, so it has nothing to do with the bus.
No. You bust the tables. That's where it comes from.
But it is interesting. Why are we called bus?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a good question. But when you clean the tables, it's called busting the tables. But you're on the bottom of the food chain. So I've worked my way up a long distance. But I enjoyed work. When I was young, and stuff. But truth be told, I've never really work for me has always been, just a means of, feeding myself initially, and then starting to feed other people as other people kind of evolved into my life. So I've always been very lucky and blessed to have, there's been, just a quick story, after I joined A.T. Kearney from B School, there's the 1998 Asia crisis. Suddenly A.T. Kearney had to lay off half of its new associates, and I was on the beach. I was the only one who never had a project all this time. So I'm thinking, I'm gone for sure. Just like my first job ever, I'm going to get laid off again.
It's like a trend.
It's a trend, definitely. I mean, it's so I'm thinking, okay. I called the gal who hired me, and I said, look, is there going to be some outplacement services? What can be done for those of us who are going to be let go? And she was like, who are you calling for? I'm like, for myself. She's like, no, you don't have to worry. She goes, the vice presidents think you have officer quality.
Wow. Okay.
What is officer quality? She's like, I don't know. Whatever it was, I had it. So and so I wasn't let go. And then I thought, okay, with all these people let go, suddenly there's going to be tons of work that they're going to just throw onto me, right? Yeah. But I was still on the beach for the next year or so. I only worked the last 3 months, really worked the last 3 months. Otherwise, I came and go as I pleased. Into the office, showed up, did a few PowerPoints here and there. Hey, you want to help with an Excel spreadsheet? That's it. My career, that kind of sums up my whole career, is that, there's been times when I've worked hard. When I first got to Shanghai, there's, the first 2-3 years was a lot of hard working. When I first got to Korn Ferry, establishing the cross-trace practice, a couple years of hard working. But otherwise, it's been relatively easy going. And yet, I've always wanted to retire.
Tell us more about that.
Just pause right here.
We were doing something wrong.
We're not talking about COVID anymore. Tell us about spending time on the beach. I have it written down here. Spend time on beach.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why. You read my first book, but in my second or third book, I started getting into just some of the amazing ways that people just allow me. Like, for example, when I was at AT Kearney, there was I thought they were going to finally give me a project over Christmas. And then I was already preparing for it and everything like that, going to the East Coast and blizzards and stuff. And then suddenly the guy calls like, you should enjoy your time with your family. What am I doing? I'm going to send someone else. I'm going to send someone else who it won't impact as much. I was like, oh, you're going to send someone from the East Coast? Now I'm going to send someone from San Francisco. What about that person's family and stuff? So that's one thing that's always been I've always been very fortunate.
But you have been fortunate, but something you have been done.
Is this karma?
This is that's something, right?
It's something else. What do you think? Give us some tips.
No, I mean, to be honest, I think one thing, I think I've never tried too hard, and I think that actually helps. When I was AT Kearney, I think some of the people are always trying to raise their hand, trying to answer this question, try to be impressive looking, sounding, and stuff. I never tried that much. But also, what's also helped is having great mentors along the way. I've had one or two really rough bosses. When I led the Kaplan Centers in Taiwan for about a year or two, and that boss there was a jerk. But he always said, Richard, come on, we need to. That was his management style. Like, we need to. I'm like, what is this? I didn't want to get into details, but mostly my bosses have been amazing. They've been great mentors, and I've become really good friends with them, and they've taken under my wing. They call me little bro or brother or so. And I think that's been my blessing. Whether I did anything active, I haven't done anything active to secure that, but I've always felt that, and I advise people, look, the company's important, the role is important, but really it's all about the boss. Right? There's a saying in our industry is that you join because of the company, you quit because of the boss. And so you got to really be careful about who you're going to work for. And that doesn't mean you just pick someone who's going to be a softie or who's going to be easygoing with you or who loves you. That helps. But Cindy also learned when she went from a boss that loved her, absolutely loved her, and was her style, to a boss that was suddenly very numerically oriented, very quantitative, etc. She had a very tough time under the boss, but she learned so much under that boss because she was completely different. So I think that's an important takeaway, is that you got to find a boss that will look out for you, but also challenge you to grow. Sometimes looking out for you is, as we know, as parents, it's tough love, right?
Super.
And so I think that's where I've been really fortunate. But going back to your retirement question, I started thinking about retiring. We've been very fortunate with our investments in real estate. And so because of that, we've had the good fortune, even as early as 2007, to, I said, I've been working hard for 2-3 years now. I need a break.
So stop it.
Seriously, this is my thinking. I'm not sure how so I'm thinking I need a break. So I set a goal, and I told Cindy, I said, because you also have to realize, I was already going to quit corporate world back in 2003 to go into entertainment.
That's right.
At the time, I was doing community theater. I was directing. I was writing. I was doing these musicals. I was producing, and getting quite a few leads on these different community theater musicals. So I was thinking, that's my life. I'm headed that direction. I'm out of here, corporate world. So to me, I've already put in an extra 3-4 years in Folsom, right? And now it's time, they're gonna let me out finally. So I planned 2010. I said, that sounds good. 2010, it's a nice round number. It's at the end of a decade, end of an era. That's illustrates 3 years hard working. And then
because the number of the year is good.
Retire.
I like Tuesdays.
Tuesdays at morning. So Tuesdays, whatever works for you. So I said 2010, but then suddenly in 2008, as the housing bust, and then the global financial crisis, and I see all these people wiped out around me, right? People I know, but also in the newspapers everywhere, CNN, everything. And then, it was like the end of the world, financial world for a lot of people. And thankfully, most of our investments were in China, so we weren't really that impacted by it. But it got me thinking. I said, one day I may be. So at the time, I was like thinking, okay, we need a certain X amount of money to have, a certain amount per each kid. We plan to have 5 kids, a certain amount of money. And then once I reach that amount, I can just quit. And so we already hit that amount. So that's why I was planning 2010. But then after I saw GFC, I said, look, maybe we need double.
Raise the bar.
Yeah, they raised the bar.
I have to work another 2 weeks.
No, actually, a little bit longer. So then I joined Korn Ferry in 2009, and truth be told, I only planned to be there like 2-3 years. I joined mainly because there's a gentleman named Charles Stang who's an amazing boss, and she's just, he's still my big brother. We're very close. And he was always looking out for me. Whenever he saw me, he was always asking about my father, my mother. My father had dementia. He knew my mother liked to travel. And so I said, I got to work for this guy. I got to work for him and put in just 2-3 years, and then I'll mosey off. But then he always found a way. He said, at one point I said, Charles, it's been 3 years. I got to go. And he's like, how about if you do it part-time? I was like, lead the cross-streets practice part-time? I was like, this isn't like, a busboy, or even like a senior associate. You can't just do it part-time. And he's like, yeah, you could do it part-time. Why not? He says, you probably already are doing it part-time. I was like, okay, thank you. So I started doing that part-time. And then after a while, you realize you can't do it part-time. They just have your base pay. And then in the end, you're still working hard, right? You still go all out. So then I came back in, and then he always found some way to keep me around. That was his brilliance. But then last year, in 2018, I told Sydney, I said, enough is enough.
2020 is a good number. 2020 is a good number.
Nothing would happen in 2020. It's just a clear, positive year.
2020. That just sounds good, right?
It sounds like a great year.
And it's even better than 2010 because it's symmetrical, right? 2020.
That's right. Yeah. That's right.
It sounds like a great eye vision test, right? So you're like thinking, okay, that's it. And then, so I did tell my new boss, who's actually my age, a great guy named Mike DeStefano. He's also like a brother. And I said, hey man, I'm running out of steam, running out of energy. I've been going at this for now, working hard now for a couple more years. I need to move on. And he was supportive of it. And then so we started the transition plan. But then truth be told, COVID hit. And thankfully, I was the one who offered to resign. Because if not, they probably would have laid my ass off. Because I'm the most expensive guy. And also, we're to be candid, I was losing energy and steam for it all. Yeah. I just wasn't into it as much. So I think it would have been logical at that point. It's like if you and your girlfriend break up, you always want to be the one that breaks up, right? You don't want to be the one that gets broken up.
There's no mutual breakup.
Yeah, exactly.
It's only me versus her.
Exactly. I broke up with you first.
Everyone has broken up with me.
Yeah, exactly. One day. No, one day. Sorry.
But nowadays it's your text message. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Or just like, what is it, like dislike?
Tell us more about your experience.
Unfollow. I don't know.
Yeah, nowadays you swipe left. Yeah.
Hi, Aisha.
Exactly. No, we're just joking. Just guy talk. So I think it was a natural ending, and it was sad to leave. Again, because I had to let go of all that's my last action. I let go of a lot of people. But to be honest, I think if I hadn't retired, I probably would have had to let go of myself, which would have been rough emotionally. But it was tough. When with only about a month or two left, there were times when I was thinking, God, maybe I should call Mike and say, I changed my mind, because you start thinking, who's going to listen to me anymore? Right? Here I have a team. I tell people to do stuff, and they actually scurry off and do stuff, or at least they pretend to agree with me. They laugh at all my jokes, and I'm a popular guy in the office, right? I walk around and everyone's smiling at me. Who's going to do that in the future? But thankfully, I'm a relatively low ego guy in the corporate sense, and so once I did go, the first month, to be honest, was a bit challenging. I hadn't started writing in earnest yet. And I was like, what am I doing? And I was like, this is every day for the rest of my life. And I got a little bit scared and panicky. And also my writing, I hadn't gotten going yet. And I actually applied to, because we at that point, we still thought we were going to, this is like in kind of May timeframe, we thought we were still going to Hong Kong in summer. So I applied to the University of Hong Kong for the Masters of Fine Arts in Creative Writing, an MFA, which a lot of writers have. And I was thinking, at a certain level and stage, you start again like, who I am. You start thinking for sure they're going to accept you, right? Because you have this exceptional experience and stuff. But really, when it comes to an MFA in creative writing, you're starting from the very beginning again. Sure. You're just like you're applying to undergrad, right? You're
credential to credential, right?
Yeah, exactly. You're like
blank
a high
page.
schooler.
We have a chance. We have a chance. I tell you.
Exactly.
We can fill that out later.
Yeah, seriously. It's like you're applying to a tech company and you're saying, I busboyed or I bartended, right? It has nothing to do with that. So, then they turned me down. And then I was really, kind of like, what's going on? And you talked about we've been talking about the fivefold, fivefold including.
Expand, right.
Yeah, writing, teaching, investing, entertainment, and philanthropy. And so the philanthropy piece, we talked about earlier, we're still doing. The writing piece, I was struggling to get off the ground at that time. The teaching, I was thinking, do I really want to teach at this age? So that was, this was the fivefold was created in 2008, when I was still a younger man, still a lot of energy and passion and the feeling that you could do it all at once. And I still believe that. The investing, we were shifting our assets, and I have brothers who have investment companies that would like me to help out, so that's in motion. But the entertainment is something that we kind of joked about when I first came in the room, was that you do get a feeling it's passed you by, especially in front of the camera. In the last since. I came.
We have 2 cameras now. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. This one especially is massive.
I feel I'm back at home. But so for a long time, in the States we would be doing all these musical theater and stuff. Here in China we would be singing at galas or like the American Chamber of Commerce, like the American Bar, or this and that. So every year I would have maybe 8 to 10 gigs. Or singing at weddings, for mostly cousins and people related to you and stuff. And you're thinking, okay, this is great, but at a certain point, it does pass you by. And even behind the camera, you have to be relatively young and networked and all that stuff. Unless you're gonna do podcasting, and then they'll let anyone do that.
Thank
God. So the fivefold kind of slowly became like the threefold. Right? And now I'm thinking, okay, I got to make the writing piece work. Investment is something that I'm interested in. It's kind of glamorous and cool, but it's not my passion. Philanthropy is a passion, but I can't be doing that every day. But writing is something I could do every day. So for a while, I was quite having a rough time, and I was doing a lot of reading. I knew I wanted to start off with memoirs and have 4 of them. In a kind of a huge narrative arc across, starting in high school through college, then through Taiwan. So the first one is called Arizona Awakening, the second one's LA Lore, the third is Taipei Tale, and the fourth is Shanghai Stories. So I'm like, I already got some awesome names.
Yeah.
I got to write the books, right? If you got the titles, you got to write the books. But I found it hard getting going. So what I started doing was reading a lot of books, a lot of other memoirs, getting a sense of their cadence, their style, and as many people there are that write memoirs, there's that many different styles, and so I was absorbing a lot of that. But also, what really changed for me was reading this one book called How to Fast Draft a Memoir, and basically it was like about 230 pages of just one thing over and over again, which is just write. just write, just write, you know. And so I just started writing, and I also picked up some of the stuff I'd written in the past and kind of cobbled it together and started to edit it all. And I just started writing, and then I started kind of earnest on. I remember in July 11th or so, 12th or so, and then at first my goal was to do a 45,000 word memoir, which is kind of a very short memoir. Most memoirs you want to have between about 60 to 85,000 or so. And then I found myself going past 45,000, and the book was not even halfway through. Mm-hmm. So then I kept going, and I hit 60,000, something like that. And then basically 3 months later, early November, end of October, I finished it on Halloween Day. I said, I got to finish it, otherwise I'm not going trick-or-treating. And I got to go trick-or-treating with the kids. And so I finished it, basically, let's see, about three and a half months.
Wow.
And which is relatively quick. A lot of writers will take years to write their book. And
you worked a little bit. I was like, I had to write this in like 2 months.
I didn't have a time frame for me originally, but then as I realized, look, I'm writing, and it wasn't like a lot of people have writing goals. They'll be like, okay, I got to write 2,000. Like Stephen King in his book on writing, he says 2,000 words a day, and I'm like, I can't hit 2,000 words a day, and I wasn't hitting 2,000 words a day, to be honest. Most of the time I wasn't. There would be times with short spurts. Again, I'm like a cheat. I work in short spurts, and I got to rest for a while. I'm tired, but then I realized, look, I'm starting to get into it, and as my craft improved, especially the last 4 or 5 chapters, especially the last third, I was really starting to hit my stride. In the last 3 chapters, as you know, the romantic interest kind of winds down in chapter 23, 24, and then 25, 26, 27, there's not much on the romance anymore.
No.
And the romance is the center of the story. So I'm thinking, but by that time my craft had gone to the point where I could actually focus on the other 3 themes. The first theme was interracial romance, the romantic love interest. The other one was the immigrant experience, the intergenerational immigrant conflict. Third was racism, bias, and ethnic tension, and then the fourth was the friendship of having to transition from friends who were at a public school to a private school. And so I focused the last 3 chapters on those, and I found at that point my craft was strong enough where I could just kind of really not pop those out, but really just smoothly wrap it up. And
no, I read it too, and I told you this. I think it's pretty engaging. It's an engaging story.
Yeah, thank you.
And I could find myself at least relating to a few of those, especially with you think about your first few relationships, you think about growing up in a multinational or ethnic environment where you might not exactly fit in, right?
Yeah.
I found similarities. I thought it's very engaging, man. I commend you on writing a book.
How does it feel as finished? Like, how does it feel to write a book and
wow.
you finish
And is it finished? Or do you feel like I got to go back in?
Well, it is. That's a good question. That's a good question. A book is never finished. I think that's what a lot of writers and editors realize. A book is never. Every time you go through. I mean, my book has gone through 3 professional editors now, and they're amazing editors. They used to be at the big 5 traditional publishers, and so experienced. And yet there are still things that I catch, little grammatical or little typos and stuff. And there's always ways you say, okay, this could be rephrased a little bit better, or it could be even more lyrical, even more beautiful, or more impactful, or more shocking, or whatever you're trying to achieve through your writing. So I don't think it ever ends, but I think it does feel good to finish a book, especially in 3.5 months. I think it'll be even more amazing once it's picked up for publication and hits the market. I'm looking forward to that. But I think, it's like anything else in life. Once human beings, while we've come to dominate the planet, we're just never satisfied, right? I was reading this book by Jimmy Ouyang, his memoir, and he talks about how you have a 19-inch Zenith TV and you're watching Price is Right, and you're yelling at the contestants for how stupid they are, and you're yelling at Tom Brady, and then you exchange it for a flat screen, invite all the friends over, and they're watching that, and then you get bigger and bigger flat screens and more pixelation and everything, but you're never satisfied. He says, like, at some point you have to realize I got to enjoy the here and now. And I think I'm in the stage now where I'm still looking for next to publish this, to maybe become a bestseller, to write my next book. But at a certain point, hopefully I'll reach where I'm just like, look, I just got to enjoy the now, immerse myself in the now. But I'm not there yet.
Are you competitive from nature?
Yeah, quite.
Yeah.
I think. But I think in a way that I like competing, whether it's board games or sports, this and that. But at the same time, I'm not talented enough at any one thing where I can just dominate pure. So I've learned to be a good sport as well over time. I've had to. Yeah, but
it comes across in your book as well.
Yeah,
you have a self-deprecating humor.
Thank you.
That comes across.
Well, I have to.
Where he'll talk about like, I've been working out like crazy and I'm super buff, but then the other guy walks in and you're like, he's like Adonis. You're like, crap.
Yeah. Well, I think, Chinese have a saying, 一山比一山高. There's always a higher mountain, right? So once you climb this mountain, you're thinking, okay, wow, look at that mountain. You want to keep climbing. But at a certain point, just like when we talked about my retirement, at a certain point I realized, look, okay, I want to hit this mark, I hit that mark, I doubled it, then I hit that mark, I doubled it. And to be honest, I haven't hit the new double. I hit the first double, but not the second double. But I realized, like, so what? I hit that new double, and then what? I'm going to double it again? And when do I ever quit? A lot of men, I think, get trapped in that. A lot of men, I think, could do what they want to do in life, but they don't because they get trapped in this, I need more. I need to run up the score. For whatever reason, whether it's financial security, whether it's for prestige, or whether it's just to feel good about themselves, whatever. And of course, it's all valid. But I think a lot of people can't get out of that rat race in that way, I think.
Yeah, it's always the belief. We talk about this quite a lot, Hassan and myself. It's always the belief that you're on the threshold of that next level.
Right.
Like I'm right there. I'll stop. I'll stop right after I do this. Right.
For sure.
Like, it's like having that one piece of candy. Like okay, I'll stop after this one last.
Yeah, for sure.
And then I'm right there.
For sure.
And you feel like you're in the chase of like
Yeah.
Why give up now?
For sure.
I'll give up next year.
Yeah.
For sure.
So retirement doesn't mean you're ending your goals in life, obviously, right? So, but like what is your, besides of writing, is there another goal that you feel like you want to get after, or ask other people to should also think about,
Okay, yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, I think it is important because you hear about men retiring and you read the statistics and read articles and they say, oh, men who retire early, they die early, and they lose their place in life. Because we tie so much of our social worth, so much of our social cachet, right, to our status, right, to work. But once you kind of get over that and realize, look, what I was doing wasn't something that I was born to do or what I really wanted to do. I've looked back and I said, wow, why didn't I quit earlier, actually, right? And again, we're blessed that allows me to do so. But at the same time, I think there are things that I want to do, and I think people should, when they can, or do it responsibly, for themselves, for the family, move on to do what they want to do, because. Yeah, I mean, it's the cliche that you only have one life, but truly that is the case. And there's so much, I wanted to do all this stuff in entertainment, and that's in the rear window. I can't do it. It's just at a certain point you can't play. They look for a 30-year-old to play, a 40-year-old, right? They don't look for a 50-year-old to play a 30-year-old or a 40-year-old. They look for me to play a 70-year-old, right? That's the way the entertainment business works. You have to actually look much younger than your age, which I do to a certain extent, but still you can't let these things pass you by. At a certain point, too many of them pass you by, and what do you have left to look forward to? Is my sense. So I do want to continue down writing and make something of myself there, hopefully, and then I think I can see the outlines of that. I think if I continue to work hard and network and act sensibly, I think that can come to fruition. Investing is a realm I want to continue to develop, and then teaching maybe one day, still bring that into the picture. Philanthropy, obviously continue to do that, expand on that. I think philanthropy is very important also as you get older. Because at a certain point you start to wonder, what am I on this earth for? How many fancy Michelin star dinners can you enjoy? How many, I'm not wearing anything. Again, this was bought at family sale at Shatsi Chan, but how many Shatsi Chan jackets can you have? Or, or most of the time I'm decking out Levi's or Nike sweats,
So,
right? I'm wearing my Nike. Nikes are they're not cheap, but they're not super expensive either. Right?
Thank you for giving us a salary.
one more plot. Yeah, a nice color matching well.
Come over to Nike and buy some swoosh. No, that's
but
not
like
the
for
jingle.
some of these things, you don't need to retire to do either. Like philanthropy, yes, with money you can do, well, with wealth you can do, but even to do something or being part of a good program, or having just raise money with friends to buy for 2 children or to the certain school to do something.
Right.
You don't need to retire or do so.
Sure.
So I think
that's
those
true.
are the things that we have been talking about, and we're trying to be more active as well.
Yeah.
Because yes, I mean, we're not rich, but we're not we're pretty okay in terms of like where we are right now too.
Certainly.
I mean, I'm looking to you and myself too.
And there's a single tear coming down my cheek.
But we as a society need to do more.
And we do.
Right?
Yeah,
and I think a lot of things also get stopped with politics.
Yeah.
Like religion and other
Stupidity.
borders or obstacles and stuff like that. And yes, it is a hashtag stupidity, right?
Yeah.
So I think the younger generations, I think right now are also much more open in understanding the world, what's happening in the U.S., in Europe, in Gaza, or in China, or in in some areas. I have hope, to be honest, for the Gen Z or the Alpha Gen right now, to be honest, that the life will change in philanthropy, or in that sense of foundational work, or really just NGO work, or profit organizations.
I personally think the world would be a lot better off if people stopped chasing the work. You're tying your social worth to work, or your social cachet to work, and you just say, hey man, you know what? I'm good where I am.
Yeah.
I have everything I need.
Yeah.
And then you dedicate your time, your energy, right, towards things that can either make other people feel good about themselves or make you feel good about yourself, right?
Yeah.
And that would be where you'd leave your mark.
Yeah.
Like you'd leave your mark that way if you did that.
Yeah.
Because you can't take the money to.
No.
Oh, don't worry, I'm gonna burn it all. It'd be like one of those, like,
Give it to me.
Viking long ship, like, just put me on there and light the flame, man. It's all gonna go with me. As my kids will have single tears go down, and I'll be like, there it is, there's your money. You're grounded.
Or just donate it all.
Oh yeah, I can do that too.
It's all going to these other kids who are not related to me.
I could do that too. That's okay. Note to self.
All right. As we have talked about today about Richard, your experiences, your great background, your philosophy around family and community, and living the day and making hard decisions, right, for your life. How do you see the future?
Yeah, you mentioned future, in terms of more.
Anything again, I don't want to lead in certain areas, but it could be anything.
Maybe I'll start with the personal and expand beyond that. But personally, I think for us, Cindy's retiring this month, and she's going to be focusing more on philanthropy. So we have, again, that blessing to be able to choose to do what we're really passionate about in life, and I think we're going to, given that opportunity, we're going to make the most of it. And so most likely we'll be here for another 3, 4, 5 years because we want the kids to kind of graduate from here, and then we can move on. But really, we want to travel a lot. We want to see the world, live in different places, do different things. But in terms of outlook for overall, I mean, I think China obviously has handled the COVID situation very well. I mean, aside from the initial when it was still trying to figure things out, and I think, truth be told, any country would have had a very difficult time containing what was going on, because you just didn't know what was going on, right? People blame, China, this and that, but what other country would have done it better? I mean, I think you look at all the other countries, the proof is in the pudding, right? They had months and months advance of warning that this thing was...
And they still didn't listen to it.
And they still couldn't get it under control either. So, I mean, I don't think you can only blame China so much, and I think China's done a phenomenal job of getting under control, and I think that's going to bode well for its future. So I do think China and it's talent that I've seen. I've seen the talent grow up really from when I talked about, at the director level as it's gone up and now, this huge base of people, now they're at the MD level, right? Now they not only work for the MNCs, but they work for the local companies. And I've got great faith in the Chinese people. The government, is handling things quite well for the most part, and also the companies, I think, are very promising. They think, Chinese are, make cheap products or don't innovate in this and that. I mean, come on, we all know. I mean, we use, WeChat, Ali, and all these amazing things that in the States, you go to the States or you go to Hong Kong or you go to Singapore, you go elsewhere, and you're like, what, you can't do that here? In China, everything
being impatient, like, do I have to put my card out? I don't even know where it is.
Or like cash.
I'm so spoiled. Cash.
Yeah. I mean, so I think China, I see a lot of positivity moving forward. I do hope that it, somehow the world community can be more embracing of China and vice versa. The U.S., I'm very, I know it's not a political show here, but I am very happy that there's been a regime change.
The world is happy.
There's been some regime change.
MAGA? No?
Sorry, I didn't bring my MAGA hat. But I mean, we got Biden. We have a president. I feel at least he's a decent person. I mean, whatever your politics are, at least he's a decent person. At least he wants to effect positive change. At least he's not looking out just for, himself and trying to make an extra buck for himself, or whatever Trump's motivation was. But and I think overall, I see a lot of positive. I mean, it's been dark times during COVID. Certainly, it's been very challenging for a lot of people. But I do see this as something in the long term as a positivity. Obviously, some people have lost people that cannot come back, or their lives have changed irrevocably. But I think overall, as a world, we come to appreciate more what we had before, right? Many things that we used to take for granted, and also realize, like, this world is not ours to abuse, right? We got to find a way to sustain this world, or this home of ours, this only home that we've been given. Yeah. So.
Do you a more specific question on that one too? Do you feel with your expertise of how the Chinese, students and early entrepreneurs or corporate, give me the name. Corporate,
businesses?
Workers, corporate, professionals,
professionals.
Young professionals, grow up, as you said, at the triangle, which is interesting. Are there certain skills that they have to get better at?
Well, I think, the perception has always been, in surveys that we do or see, was that, Chinese, and it's the kind of typical things that they're very good at analytical, quantitative, they're good at, the hierarchical and, kind of a command and control type, but they need to be more, quite critical in terms of, be able to provide critical thinking, be able to provide opinions, stand up and voice themselves, be more creative, etc. But to be honest, I think I see a lot of that in the young people here. But the thing is this: when I came here, the young people that I worked with then were so promising in terms of their energy, in terms of their optimism, in terms of their willingness to work hard, and also the fact that they wanted to contribute to China's future as well as their own, as well as to taking care of their parents. I mean, it was very admirable. A lot of the kids I saw nowadays, they're at the they're starting to become significant leaders within the China corporate realm. But the young, the current new batch, from what I understand, and you guys probably know better than I do, is not as directed and focused and motivated, from what I understand. So that's going to be a challenge, because Taiwan hit that, Japan hit that, South Korea hit that. At a certain point, they become westernized also, right?
Exactly.
And at a certain point, they're like, hey, maybe this isn't what I want to do. I don't want to work that hard, and and
which is not a bad thing.
Somehow it's worked for me.
It's going to be a balance.
Somehow it's worked out for me.
No, we agree. I mean, I'll put on my dad's hat right now and be like, kids these days. But in a certain point, I do believe that as they look out at the future, I think a lot of corporations will figure out how to motivate someone beyond pay.
Yeah.
Right? How do you motivate someone to do a job beyond title?
I mean, that's why a lot of these questions come up with these, the big corporations. What's your purpose? Like, what's the purpose? Like, it's not just money, but what do you really want to get after as a business?
How do you fold some of these fivefold into your job, right? And kind of feel like it's fulfilling as part of that.
Yeah.
I think that's a whole different podcast on its own, man.
I think very few, but I think some people do achieve that integration of work and life. They talk about work-life integration these days. But I think at a certain point, again, if I'd want to encourage your audience, etc., all five of them, your family and ours, your family and mine.
Is Cindy part of that?
She's 6. Sorry. No,
I still can't get my wife.
Just kidding, of course. But no, I think at a certain point, when we tell our kids to do something passionate that you're passionate about, I think sometimes we have to really follow that advice, because at a certain point, again, if you can do it responsibly, go for it. Because otherwise you'll just never know, and it'll forever be a regret, I think.
As an Indian who's going to push my kids into engineering, that does not compute.
Of course.
Dancer,
sure. Yeah, this is what I'm telling my kids now. Maybe 30 years from now, I'll remind them of that.
Great.
Well, man, want to thank you for coming on to the Double Click.
Yeah,
the Double Click it is.
Truly inspiration. Thanks for sharing your path. We'll probably have you back to learn about your entertainment business next, or definitely teaching next.
That'll be a very
we should write our resumes still, though.
I already added one to the table. What are you doing, man? I already sent it over.
I'm slow,
Fantastic, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah,
thank you for coming.
Thank you guys for listening.
Thanks, brothers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.